Hello and welcome to Film du Siècle, the film and media channel focused on all things 90s and 2000s. This week, Seb and Olly will be discussing Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street.
Hello and welcome to Film du Siècle, the film and discussion channel where we discuss all things 1990s to 2000s. And this month we are doing Spooky October.
Ghost noises.
Yeah, that. And we are, well, we're not wrapping up the month, but we are heading towards Halloween with one hell of a movie. This movie's name is...
Attend the tale of Sweeney Todd. His skin was pale and his eye was odd.
Yeah.
He shaved the places of gentlemen that never after a word of again.
And today we are going...
He trod a path that few have trod.
Yeah, we know.
Did Sweeney Todd.
And today we are going to watch Sweeney Todd and the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Not and, he is the demon barber of Fleet Street.
Yeah! It's not Harry Potter. You know what I mean? He's Sweeney Todd and he's the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. He is both of them at once.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is quite a good movie. I really liked this. I saw it with you a few months ago before we started this channel, and I really liked it. I thought it was just going to be okay.
Can you tell I've been looking forward to this one?
Yes, I can. You're like full of energy. It's like giving a child sweets. It's...
Yeah. I was recently re-obsessed with the musical. I hadn't actually seen the stage version, but I saw it on Prime and then I did. And then I saw a video essay about it, which sort of like had me obsessed for a good month or two.
And then you kept saying, "Oh, you should watch this, Seb. You haven't seen it yet." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm down for that."
Yeah, and
so we watched it, and I really enjoyed it. It was a laugh, although it was sometimes unintentionally a laugh where I found things really funny. Like the one moment I found in the beginning really funny is where Alan Rickman frames like Sweeney Todd's. He's framed Sweeney Todd for something. I don't know what. But anyway,
it's the flashback, Barber and his wife.
Yeah, that's right.
He basically has him sent away so that he can move in on his wife.
But I love how they just compress the events on film, because it literally goes from him pointing like in the direction of Sweeney Todd, the police going to arrest him, and then he instantly moves in on the wife as he's being arrested, like, "Hey, baby."
It's true.
But I love that, because they're not wasting anybody's time. They're getting the backstory out of the way in the first 5 minutes. You've got the sort of creepy implied rape with Timothy Spall.
It's just a loose visual representation of what Sweeney Todd is singing about. So...
And I just love it. It's just the lack of subtlety. I love it when they just do away with all that and just show you the big old events.
Yeah.
It's so great. I love it. And my favourite bit of dialogue is when the boy comes in, who's sort of meant to be like the moral heart of the movie, and he comes across Alan Rickman, who's this dirty old perv who is collecting all these porn magazines.
Yeah, Alan Rickman shows off his porn collection and then gives us the greatest line in cinema history.
This wasn't something that happened on set, by the way. This is part of the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah, dare I say. But yeah, and then he says the greatest line in cinema history: "You gandered at my ward. Yes, sir, you gandered at her."
You gandered at my ward. Joanna, you gandered at her. Yes, sir, you gandered.
I really want the word gandered to be reintroduced to the English language.
Yeah, in modern parlance.
I'd just love to be in a nightclub, like, I don't know, like, say I've got a girlfriend in this fantasy. I can dream. Anyway, we're in a nightclub, we're dancing, and then this bloke comes over and tries to dance with her, and I'm like, "You gandered at my ward! Yes, sir, you gandered!" Then I glass him and I get thrown out. Oh,
You have very violent fantasies.
I do. It's sort of like Malcolm McDowell in Clockwork Orange. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. The songs were great. I liked that there's like montages of like slitting throats, and they're just so blasé about it. And I really liked the ending, by the way, because I thought I saw it coming. I was like, wait, who's she? And it's like, oh no, I know who she is. Oh no, this is terrible.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the film, well, we assume you've seen it, or you wouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, we keep doing this. I mean, the spoiler warning should be implied. Don't blame us if we've ruined this movie for you.
Yeah, there is a twist regarding a character, and, well, we'll assume you've seen it.
We can say.
Yeah, it was pretty well telegraphed. I would actually say that this is my favourite Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, I would. In fact, I think it's the most well-made one in terms of how tight it is, because
it's a really good adaptation. I think the stage version is better, and in the tail end of this video after we've watched it, I'll probably be comparing the two a lot.
Yeah, by all means.
Because it is an adaptation, you can't really get away from that.
No.
But I think it is a really good one.
Yeah. Well, I just like how nothing went to waste in this movie. No pun intended. You know, because obviously they eat people, but...
Yeah. It's the Stephen Sondheim cannibalism musical.
Yes. I just like how the script is very tight. Nothing felt like it could have been a deleted scene. You didn't feel like anything was missing. You knew exactly as much as you needed to know when you knew it, and you were entertained the whole way.
There's more stuff in the stage version that they cut out, but I don't think it really hurts it.
Yeah, it's not, like, crucial to the experience of watching the movie, perhaps.
I would actually argue that the film is a better introduction to the story.
Sometimes less is more, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a better version of the story, but if you're not sure whether you'll like it, if you're not sure whether it's your thing, it is probably better to watch the film than the stage version, just because it's a smaller ask, if you know what I mean.
I thought you were gonna say something else then. You're like a smaller and I was like, oh, what was he gonna say?
Like, you know, it's shorter and you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I liked what I saw. I know nothing about the musical other than it is very successful and a lot of people like it. I've never heard any bad words being said against the movie. I'm sure it has its detractors, but I've not heard from them.
I'm pretty much permanently sick of Tim Burton and his style, but if there was anything that was made for him to adapt it, I would argue that it is this.
Absolutely. I mean, I like his Batman movies. They're okay. I'm not sure if they're my favourite iteration of the Dark Knight character or not, but they're okay. A few of his other movies were a bit too Tim Burton for my taste, like Edward Scissorhands. I'd quite happily never watch that again. I thought it was okay, but it's not my kind of thing. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I preferred the original, although there is some merit to the new one, I will say that.
I've only seen the new one.
And yeah, the Alice in Wonderland movie never really grabbed me, to be honest. I saw it, it was okay. And how horrific did Matt Lucas look in that? And we've seen this guy dressed in some pretty horrific costumes, keep in mind, in Little Britain, so...
I am actually very glad that that movie, I think, falls outside of our remit, because I have shall we say I have a history with that movie that makes me never want to see it again.
Oh, this is juicy.
Oh crap, it's in 2010. if you try and make me watch this movie, I will quit.
Okay, well, spin us the yarn then, and I'll make it a deal that if you tell us this story...
Right, the reason that I'm pretty much permanently sick of Tim Burton movies, and for a while Johnny Depp, is because when it came out, the Alice in Wonderland movie...
Yeah.
I took my girlfriend at the time to see it.
I knew there'd be a girlfriend involved.
And she became obsessed to the point that I bought the DVD for the sake of watching it with her for something to do. Every time she came over, we would watch it at least once a day, sometimes twice. And it was a terrible, terrible film.
Of all movies! So, oh my god.
So... there was a time when I was intensely familiar with this film I didn't like. And you know, I've never been able to, like... It's one of those, if I never see another... It's one of those things, if I never see another Tim Burton movie, it'll be too soon. That's, like...
You got cucked by Tim Burton.
Well, it wasn't really that. I mean, you know, to this day I can't even, like, see the promotional art from that film without remembering feeling bored. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Feeling bored and honestly a little bit sexually frustrated.
Well, Johnny Depp will do that to a man. Well, do you know what will put a good taste in your mouth? Watching Sweeney Todd. On to the meat of the matter.
Yeah. Going from the film that made me incapable of appreciating anything Tim Burton to a film that, makes me forget about that.
Yes, indeed. Let's dig on in. We are back having watched the Sweeney Todd. I nearly said the Sweeney then, and then I had to correct myself. Sweeney Todd.
We gandered at that film. We gandered at it.
Oh, yes, sir, we gandered. Oh, that's a joy to watch. I mean, this is the second time I've seen it. You showed it me a few months before we started Film de Siècle, and I was very impressed. Yeah. And I liked it even more the second time. It's just such a great movie.
Well, I'd seen a couple of videos about it that had me slightly obsessed. And those videos I'll give you links so you can put them in the description in case people are curious.
Remind me, though, because I might have forgotten to do these things in the past. I don't know. I don't remember.
I'd forget the exact title, but it's a video by a channel called Sideways called How the Music Spoils Sweeney Todd, or something along those lines. And it's a really interesting look at the score and how it's composed. And the other one is called The Marxist Genius of Sweeney Todd by a YouTuber called David J. Bradley, who at the time had about 400 subscribers, but now has about 10,000. So, well done.
Yeah. Good success there. Funny you mention the music, because I was thinking, unlike the music of A Nightmare Before Christmas, I can't imagine this movie without it.
Yeah, although there is something I forgot to mention about The Nightmare Before Christmas that is still true here that I really like.
Do tell.
The shifting diegesis, which is where they play with where the soundtrack in the film is actually coming from, and sometimes it's actually part of the set. Like, you know...
That's one of my favourite tropes. I mean, I remember that happening in... Oh, what's the name of the movie? Truman Show.
Yeah.
And I think it happens in Prisoner of Azkaban, which, by the way, will be out by now.
Yes.
Well, no, it won't be out by now, actually. It'll be out a few weeks from now. I'm an idiot.
No, the film came out quite a while ago, so you're not technically wrong.
Yeah, I guess.
In The Nightmare Before Christmas, the shifting diegesis was when, you know, that band in the street plays the soundtrack. And here...
I thought that was cool.
You pointed out, like, I don't know, Mrs. Lovett chopping in time to the music. That kind of thing happens a bit. And, well, it's a musical, so obviously the soundtrack is part of the set in places because they're singing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're doing any kind of musical, you're probably going to acknowledge that it's a musical at some point. I mean, for example, High School Musical, the movie literally has the word musical in its name. So, yeah, I enjoyed this movie as well, by the way. I thought it was quite good. I'm not going to say I'm not a huge musical person because I like musicals. I just don't go out of my way to involve them in my lifestyle, if that makes sense.
I can get mildly obsessed with them once I see them, but I never seek them out.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely see the appeal and I love it, and this one was particularly good.
Those two videos I mentioned that had me slightly obsessed, I might crib a few points from them that I agree with, but that's not my intention to do so.
Well, it happens naturally.
Yeah. But the Sideways video, in brief, talks about how the entire score is composed around something called the DSE ray, which, now that it's been pointed out to me, I hear everywhere in movies. A few notes that are basically the universal musical symbol for death. And it was at the unedited tune, it's a few notes, really, that people know about, was actually the theme tune of The Shining. So it's that melody, right? You know the one?
Yeah.
And you hear it in film whenever death is, like, thematically appropriate. And the entire score of Sweeney Todd is in some way based on or inspired by it.
Yeah, you also have that very Bach-esque church organ sound, which seems to be epidemic in these Tim Burton movies in particular. And that's the first thing you hear when you start watching this movie. You think, oh, okay, yeah, I know it's a Tim Burton movie. I know I haven't accidentally gone in and seen the B movie.
Yeah, and then there's that oddly reminiscent of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory opening where...
We talk about this a lot. I just love these styles of openings, and they're a lot more common than I originally thought they were.
Yeah. It's a bit more of a trope.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually making something or just using the aesthetics of the movie, like with Spider-Man, where they show off the various villains and characters through, I don't know, like moving darts and moving spider webs and stuff.
And also, another thing I really like about this film is how the world building and the tone permeates everything. Like,
oh, yes.
Every single thing about every character tells us something about the world. Okay, so Tim Burton removed the opening song from the film. The instrumental is still very much in the soundtrack.
We're not missing out on much, though, are we?
Well, I don't know how you'd really do it in a film, because it's very epic theatre. The opening song is the entire cast singing a song about Sweeney Todd. It's called The Ballad of Sweeney Todd. Well, they sing things...
So it's exposition in song form, but presumably done quite entertainingly.
Thematical exposition in song form, and you've got the entire cast of characters singing.
Honestly,
things like...
Music is a great way to deliver exposition. I mean, it's like the James Bond movies. You've got Man with the Golden Gun, Goldfinger. Those songs from the opening credits may instantly tell you details about the character. You know, he has a powerful weapon. He charges 1 million a shot.
Yeah. It's like that. The opening song is like that, in a way. But I can sort of understand why it was cut, because I don't know how that works with this film.
I mean, they could have made it work, but I like the way it flows. I like how you're straight into the story. You're straight into him arriving back in London with the sailor boy.
Yeah, and that's where the musical starts, but he also cuts out the first scene with the beggar woman, which I felt could have been in there.
Yeah, because she is important later, obviously, so it would have been good to establish her at the beginning.
Oh, again, by the way, we assume you've seen these films before we talk about them, so heavy spoilers for Sweeney Todd.
It's his wife!
Yeah.
He doesn't know this, and it's so frustrating when he does the thing.
The fact that he doesn't know it says something about how the people in this world treat those lower on the totem pole than them, those worse off than them, because she's a beggar woman, and Sweeney looks through her. And in the stage show, in that first scene, even Anthony, the sort of moral centre of the film, the good one, looks through her, she starts begging them for money, and then says to Sweeney, "Hey, don't I know you, mister?" And this is at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, while they're still on the docks. And then propositions him in a very...
Well, he is her husband.
Yeah, but she does that several times to Anthony as well.
I'm not defending him, but if she did that, said, "Don't I know you, mister," couldn't she be more specific? Like, "You look just like my husband who went to Australia."
Well, yeah, but she's not all there anymore, which is the tragic thing. And even Anthony says to Sweeney Todd, and I quote, "There's no need to fear the likes of her, sir. She's only a half-crazed beggar woman. London's full of them."
Yeah, so this is just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony's really idealistic about London, but even he just acknowledges the rampant poverty as part of the makeup.
Yeah. Yes, so I did enjoy this movie. I don't know what more to say, so I'm going to ask you, Ollie, how well do you think the film achieved its goals, and what were the goals of the film?
Well, it is a Tim Burton film, and it is also an adaptation of a stage musical, and I think it works very well as both of those. In fact, I think this is my favourite Tim Burton film.
Could well be mine, actually. Like I say, I kind of like his movies, but I'm not crazy about them.
I'm not the biggest fan of his style.
Yeah, it can get a bit tiresome.
If there was one thing that was made for his style to adapt to film, I think it is this.
Well, yeah, this musical set in London about people slitting people's throats, and then cooking them.
Cannibalism.
Yes, indeed. I do have to ask, though, has Helena Bonham-Carter ever been in a movie where she's been a present-day person?
I don't know.
Because
was she in Fight Club? Because I think I remember hearing she was in Fight Club, although I haven't actually seen that at time of recording.
Yeah, was she a normal, everyday person in that, or did she, wear corsets and stuff? I don't know.
I mean, it's reasonably modern day, so possibly, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even Harry Potter, which is sort of a 90s period drama, she's dressed like a Victorian person, alright, love, how's about this, I'm gonna kill you, like that.
She's definitely been a bit typecast.
She has been. She seems perfectly happy with this, though, because it's kept her in work. She's found a niche, but what if she wanted to play, a modern-day person?
She probably has, but we haven't seen any of those movies.
Alright, I'll file all your tax returns, governor. Because I work in the City of London, me old mucker.
And then then off camera she has a really posh accent. I'm not really Cockney, you know.
I just do it to make them like me more, I do.
It makes me appear more relatable.
By the way, the term Cockney rhyming slang, my introduction to it was at the age 6, and I thought it was Cockney Rowan slang, and I thought maybe it was some sort of invention by Rowan Atkinson.
Of all people.
I know. Oh dear. Yeah, I think it achieved its goals pretty well. It's a very good musical movie at a time when not many of those were being made, I suppose.
Yeah, and also a thing that it can do that the stage can't is the blood, and basically, which for once I think is thematically appropriate to be a bit gratuitous.
Oh yeah, and it is very gratuitous, especially at the end. In fact, that's probably where it gets a bit much.
Yeah.
But it is the end of the movie, so, you got to stick it in somewhere.
I think it does conceal the twist just well enough. I think the reason Tim Burton didn't put the beggar woman in it that much is because people would guess who she was.
Well, I kind of guessed when I first watched it, because when she said...
You guessed just when it was about to become important, didn't you?
Yeah, because there was that bit of dialogue between Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp where she's like, would you even know her if you saw her?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's going to come back later, isn't it? She's going to still be alive and she's going to be somewhere. I didn't know she was going to be the beggar woman until, she walked in. I was like, oh, no, don't do it. I know what you're going to do and I know who she is.
Yeah, I think that's why she's not in it more, despite being quite an important character.
That's how you do a mystery well, though. You let the audience in on it just at the point where they feel clever enough having figured it out.
The best twists, I think, are ones that you, in hindsight, should have seen coming.
Oh, yes. But this is good. And do you know what? A movie that's a musical, which isn't going to be for everyone, because not everyone likes musicals, and a movie with some very grisly subject matter and imagery...
Yeah.
Could very easily be an absolute mess in the wrong hands. And this movie was piloted to perfection because if somebody different or less capable directed this, it could have just been a flop.
It definitely could have been. I think Tim Burton's name and also Johnny Depp would have helped with that.
Yeah, it's weird because
this was around at the height of his popularity, I think.
I think they were making Dead Man's Chest at the same time, you were saying, so it was right at the height of Johnny Depp mania.
Yeah. And I think that has only helped how the film did. Although, I did hear an anecdote once about some people, teenagers, going to see this film not realising it was a musical and being disappointed because they were expecting a slasher flick. And I mean, it is very much that.
Yeah!
What do you think about it?
It's a slasher Mick? It's a slasher flick with
I don't know how true that is, but it's a funny thought.
I can imagine that. Apparently a lot of people went to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon not expecting subtitles.
Right.
And they're like, we have to read this whole movie?
The one thing that I didn't like from stage to film is the Fog's Asylum part, where Anthony pulls a gun on that guy and then the women he's basically holding hostage because it's a mental asylum tear him apart. That's not how it happens in the stage version.
Yeah, you were telling me yesterday.
Yeah, Basically, what happens in the stage version is he pulls the gun on him and says, "Stop or I'll shoot." And the guy says, "Shoot and I'll stop." And he can't do it. So Joanna takes the gun from him and she shoots him.
Joanna!
Yeah. And I think that's more believable than the people that have always been all around them suddenly deciding to rebel, because, like, what was stopping them?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could make a powerful message in that, but why didn't they do it all along? They could easily have done so. There's like 10 of them and 1 of him.
Well, there's a few more than 10.
Oh yeah, there's loads of them.
Yeah. I'm not here to nitpick on, I liked this better, they should have kept it in, because the "Life is for the Alive" speech that Mrs. Lovett gives Todd, where we find out that he doesn't really remember what Lucy looked like, is also not in the stage version. I like that it's in this one, because it serves 2 purposes. It shows us, in hindsight, because we later learn that she knows Lucy's alive.
Yeah.
And has always known that Lucy was alive.
Yeah.
That she is quite happy to lie to him. Because that's the first time she says she's gone. I mean, she still doesn't technically say she's dead, but she could...
She's lying for a mission. It's like the old Obi-Wan thing, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, you could, if you were playing major devil's advocate for Mrs. Lovett, say that she was talking about her mental state and saying that's not her anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of still a lie, isn't it?
Yeah, and it also serves to show just how far gone Sweeney is in his quest for vengeance. He doesn't care about anything else.
Well, you kind of lose him halfway through, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you're rooting for him up until he starts killing indiscriminately, and then you're thinking, okay, he's going too far now. It's like Walter White. You root for him up to a certain point where he just becomes too unpalatable.
Yeah. And, well, I was gonna say something. A thing about establishing character I really like is in the song My Friends, and the film does this very well.
Yeah.
And she's kept his razors from all those years ago. Well, he's gone back to where he used to live.
Why didn't he just take them with him, or do they not allow... I suppose they don't allow prisoners to have razors, do they?
He had no money, and that was somewhere to stay that she was willing to let him.
Yeah.
And also she knows who he is, so, like, he's safe there if anywhere.
Well, yeah.
She's obviously quite fond of him, quite taken with him.
What gives you that impression?
He could not care less about her. He's just interested in the razors.
It's very like Sakura and Sasuke, isn't it?
Yeah. And one thing I really love... in the song By the Sea, even in Mrs. Lovett's fantasy, he obviously couldn't give a shit. He could not be less interested.
No. I think that's brilliant, because she could fantasize whatever she wants to, but there still has, even in the realms of fantasy, this ain't working.
Yeah, and I think, in a way, she sort of likes the chase.
It's probably because of how good Bradley Walsh is.
I knew you were going to say that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, that's life, isn't it? You like the chase, you get what you want, and then it's like, it's alright.
But also, I think she's kind of in denial about the fact that he couldn't care less.
She Egyptian. Yeah. Sorry, I'll stop.
As I say, everything about the characters tells you about the world. Because...
Yes.
A thing about epic theatre is it's not so much about the characters as it is what the world has made of them.
There's nothing subtle about this, but then again, musical isn't really supposed to be a subtle art form, is it?
Mrs. Lovett is driven to... Well, not driven to. If you played Major Devil's Advocate for Mrs. Lovett, you could argue that she is driven to sell human meat in pies out of economic necessity, because times are hard. But, for all her talk about times being hard, she owns a business.
Yeah.
And also has a tenant who also owns a business.
Well, exactly.
That admittedly doesn't get much repeat business, but it gets a lot out of that one time.
Well, no, I mean, imagine the reviews for that. There aren't any reviews. That's weird. Well, people go in there, but they don't come out. Must be that good then if they're still there.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised nobody noticed.
So your cousin went to the pie shop. That's really weird, because my neighbour went to the pie shop and hasn't come back. And yours hasn't come back. Oh, that is so weird.
Also, the judge knew where Like, back in the day when he had Benjamin Barker arrested for no reason and swooped in like, hey there, baby.
That's my favourite scene in that movie. I just love how unsubtle he is about it and how he just like puts his arm around her as soon the moment he's arrested. He doesn't waste any time. It's so good.
I think we might be seeing Sweeney's internalised version of events rather than how they actually occurred. Like, he could very well see it that way.
Oh yeah, well even the Rick Man wouldn't act that quickly.
Even back then, he knew where Sweeney lived. And he recognises him at the end, so he knows his face. He knows that he was a barber by trade. And Sweeney's gone back to his old job and his old... Well, he even lives in the same place. And is surprised when someone figures out who he is.
He's such an imbecile. Well, he's too obsessed with his porn collection.
Oh yeah, Alan Rickman shows off his porn collection in this movie.
He invites the sailor in for no reason other than to brag about his porn collection because he throws him straight out.
And then threatens him.
Yeah, he threatens him and then he throws him out. It's like, oh my god, look at this big jugs, very good. Oh, what, do you like my daughter? Or fuck off.
Right, well, some of the things he's saying, like the Catamites of Greece, those sound like metal bands. Like he could.
Oh yeah, it's the Concubines of Siam.
Like in an edited version, he could be showing off his record collection.
Yes.
Which, is a much more socially acceptable thing to show off.
Oh yeah, Primus. This was before they did the South Park theme and became really famous.
Yeah.
I think that Tim Burton is really hugely misunderstood. Because they're like, oh, his movies are a bit weird, aren't they? But no, what he's very good at doing is taking very out there and strange concepts that should alienate audiences and make them palatable and enjoyable for mainstream audiences.
Yeah,
I mean, Edward Scissorhands, if Steven Spielberg, even if Steven Spielberg did that, it probably wouldn't be quite the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It takes a special kind of mind to take those ideas and make something out of them.
One thing I really want to talk about is Toby, the little kid.
Yeah, I like him.
And
we're meant to, though.
I mean, they went easy on him in the film, because in the stage show, he's insane with fright at the end by the time he kills Sweeney. But
can't really blame him.
And, well, we don't know that he isn't in the film, but he doesn't say anything, so, he could very well not be.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really tragic about him is he would have done anything for Mrs. Lovett. Like, she could have probably let him in on it, and he'd go with it. But...
Yeah.
And that's the thing, the reason he would have done anything for Mrs. Lovett is she's the only person who shows him any kind of kindness. Pirelli would quite happily discard him if he had to. Like, there's a scene that's in some versions of the stage show where the shaving competition is only part one, and the other one is tooth pulling, which apparently was a thing barbers did back then. I don't know.
Yeah, well, barbers historically used to do a lot more. They basically used to be surgeons on the streets.
Ah, right.
That is why their little symbol things are red and white, because it's blood and bone.
Oh, right.
That they deal with. Even though now they just do hair, because obviously there's more qualified people to do the rest of that now.
Yeah. But they can only find one volunteer to pull a tooth, and she goes to Sweeney. So Pirelli sticks Toby in the chair despite his protests, and then it's a really hard to watch scene where he's trying really hard to pull a tooth, and he's clearly in a lot of pain, whereas the person in Sweeney's chair hardly feels a thing. Well, he doesn't care a whit how Toby feels about this. He's a tool to him.
Well, I'm glad they took that out.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even in all...
I'm talking about from the movie. I'm not glad they took it out from his mouth.
It's not even in all versions of the stage show. It's quite a... I don't know what a good term here is. It's a tough scene to watch. And I suppose if you're acting in a live space, it could be a tough one to get right.
So it's kind of at the director's discretion.
There's a version available, not with, but available to buy on Amazon Prime of the stage show with George Hearn and Angela Lansbury that doesn't have the tooth pulling. But I've seen versions on YouTube that have it in, and it's pretty awkward. But yeah, Toby is used to being mistreated, is my point. So when Mrs. Lovett isn't horrible to him, that's basically all he knows of people being kind. And the song Nothing's Gonna Harm You is basically him. He's trying to appeal to her, not realising that she is part of the problem he's telling her about.
Yeah. Although, let's face it, this small child probably is powerless to stop anything bad from happening to her anyway.
He doesn't stop bad things from happening to her.
Well, in fairness, she did a lot of it to herself. But...
Yeah, and also by that point, he probably heard her looking for him with Todd, and therefore knows that she is... Well, she would be complicit in Todd's killing of him if he allowed her to be.
It's weirdly convenient how Helena Bonham Carter knows the rest of the story with the judge and the wife and the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's not further exposited in any version, but...
I guess someone needs to know it to make the story complete. I mean, he was in Australia at the time.
Yeah.
Not the movie, the country.
Oh, I was going to say, he doesn't invite Anthony in the stage version. They just threaten him on the street outside of a bird market. And that's another thing that a piece of world building that's left out of the film, and it's more thematic than world building. The question Joanna asks in her first song is, how are these birds singing despite being kept in cages? How do they sound so happy? And that question is answered. The bird salesman tells Anthony, they sing all the time because we blind them so they can't tell night from day. And
yeah, there's a lot of hidden meanings there.
Yeah.
There's subtext, there's allegories.
Well, in that video essay I mentioned by David J. Bradley, he says, even the symbol of hope for Joanna in this world is based on a violent lie.
Yeah. This is a very bleak movie, especially towards the end, which is why it wouldn't work if it wasn't a musical, I think.
Yeah, you need something to lift the tone.
I mean, a comparable movie, because it's very violent and ends in pretty much everybody dying, is The Hateful Eight. And part of the reason why I don't rewatch that very often is just because it's got such a bleak ending. It makes you think, oh, what's the point?
Yeah. And, well...
Even though it's a very good movie.
I think the biggest moment of tragedy for me is right before he kills Lucy. He has his wife and child in the same room as him, and he doesn't know it. And they're all together in the same room, and none of them know it.
Well, that's the thing. He already had his revenge. He already got what he wanted for the whole story. If he just stayed his hand, then he would have been happy. That's the thing. Violence begets more violence, I suppose.
Well, he didn't have to kill Lucy.
No.
And
so it's all on him.
And because
I've got no sympathy.
And because he looks through her like so many do, even Anthony, he doesn't realise who she is until it's too late.
Exactly. If he looked at her, not through her, then he would have found out the truth and he could have been happy.
Yeah. And a lot of that is on Mrs. Lovett. She knows and has always known who she was. And in the stage show, she interacts with her a bit more, trying to shoo her away from her shop because telling her she's bad for business. And she knows who she is. She rented to her for years, and
well, I didn't catch that obviously the first time I watched it because I didn't know about that aspect of the plot at that point. Yeah. But through the rewatch yesterday, when that scene came up, I was like, "Oh, she knew all along."
Oh, you're talking about God, That's Good, where the grand reopening song where she keeps going, "Throw the old woman out."
Yeah.
That's basically her only interaction with Lucy, who is a really tragic character.
It's all you need, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and, well, that shows you how she treats people who are worse off than her, despite struggling herself.
No excuse. Yeah. No excuse. So, Ollie, would you say that this movie exceeded your expectations?
Not on this watch, because I'd already pretty much watched it, so many times. But definitely, originally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to ask if it's a movie that you've watched a lot.
Yeah. And, well, it's also a film very much about abuse of power. Alan Rickman, I call him Alan Rickman, Judge Turpin.
Yes.
He decided that he should have access to Lucy Barker, and he just took it without regard for who it hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Well... And then he adopted Joanna seemingly out of some sense of guilt, but then also tries to do the same with her later.
Yeah, it's kind of very, very disgusting. But you see through his daily routine that this is what it's like every single day, and he's just a really corrupt judge. I mean, he sentences that child to death. And what is it with Johnny Depp movies and sentencing children to death?
Abuse of power is also a large reason of why Sweeney snaps and decides to kill everyone, because that's his rationale. Well, he says it in the lyrics. I'm not going to read out the lyrics without singing them, because I find it really cringe when people do that for some reason. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
But basically...
I'm not saying she's a gold digger.
Oh.
Sorry, carry on.
But basically, his rationale is that there are only two types of people in the world, abusers of power and their victims, and both deserve to die, either as punishment or mercy, respectively.
There's something very Reddit edgelord about that. Like, you can see it as a graphic that's shared on Facebook, couldn't you?
Yeah, like a Joker meme or something.
Yeah, just attach it to the Joker.
We live in a society.
Oh, those memes are so cringe! And that would be such a good one!
That's honestly how he's come to see the world at this point, because of how he's suffered at the hands of people who abuse their power. He was transported for life, and, well, he managed to escape, but only after 15 years, without actually having done anything to warrant it. It was a false charge.
Yeah, it was basically the judge saying, oh, that's him over there, and then like, hello, baby.
Yeah. He basically has Timothy Spall at his beck and call.
Yeah, he's got his own wormtail in this.
Yeah.
Literally. He's basically LeFou, isn't he?
Yeah, the LeFou to his much more, somehow even more sinister Gaston.
Yeah, he's basically Gaston if he had full understanding of the power he had over other people and how to exploit it to its greatest ability.
Yeah.
Basically, Gaston was a meathead. This is a guy who knows fully well what he can get from his position of power.
Gaston only incidentally had power over people. This guy knows full well what he's doing.
Oh yes, and he is so sinister. I mean, I really like the shaving scenes with him because he's being totally gross during it, and Johnny Depp sort of has to go along with it to keep up the suspicion, and it's like that whole Pretty Women song, when you know what he's done, that is very...
And the way it builds up to the tension of slitting his throat only to not do that in the first Pretty Women song.
Well, that's good pathos there.
I mean, you knew it wasn't going to happen that early.
It's halfway through the movie, it's not going to kill the judge halfway through. They're going to save that for later.
Yeah. Although... this movie is why I didn't like shaving. For the longest time, I couldn't put a razor to my cheek without hearing Pretty Women in my head.
If we ever go to a barber's, I don't know why we would together, but if we do, I'm going to sing that while you're getting, barbered.
This is why I wouldn't go to a barber with you.
No! It's not really a sociable activity, is it?
No. It's not like going to pub.
No. There must be a Sweeney Todd themed barbers out there.
I think there is a barber called that.
What, incidentally? Oh, bloody hell, they've wrecked my business!
I've seen a picture of a Sweeney Todd-themed barber next to a Greg's.
What are the Gregs getting out of this, I wonder? Do you want to have a steak, Beck? Don't mind if I do.
I'd be tempted to go in there and ask if they get much repeat business.
You'd hope they would. Oh, my cousin went in last week, never came back out. Must have really liked that steak bake.
Yeah. If I can find the picture, I'll send it to you to put in the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Sacha Baron Cohen's character was weird in this one.
Yeah.
You were saying he wasn't really Italian in the stage play. He was Irish.
No. Yeah, in this he's just Cockney. And he's pretending... I imagine the reason is the same that he's pretending to be Italian. It's to make himself appear more exotic and palatable to, the masses. But in the stage version, he's Irish, and I think at the time the play is set, him being Irish wouldn't have gone over well in London.
Oh yeah, probably not. Yeah.
So
there's the whole religious and socio-economic.
There's another dimension to that. That's not really... It doesn't really suffer from not being there in the film.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sacha Baron Cohen's very good at doing different accents and characters, so I assume they just wanted a personality that could fully reflect his talents, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have quite happily given that role to Glenn Shadix.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think I could have, watched Glenn Shadix get his throat slit.
No.
And also, it's more sinister. It's a more sinister character that I can really imagine him playing.
Yeah. It was
But
at the
pub. That makes it interesting. It was at the pub.
I don't know why, that always cracks me up. But apparently the Italians are more trusted as barbers than anyone else. I don't know. But it was done with Pirelli to blackmail Sweeney Todd upstairs in his own home with no backup or escape plan and nobody knowing where he went.
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, if you blackmail anybody on that level, knowing how deadly they could be, you do it on neutral ground, surely.
I mean, I don't think he expected Sweeney Todd to actually try to kill him.
That's true. At that point, nobody knew he was a murderer other than...
Well, he wasn't yet.
Well, was that his first? That was his first.
Yeah, that was his first kill.
Yeah, and that was out of desperation, and that just goes to show when you get that taste for sort of bloodlust and the power of taking someone's life, it sort of gets a hold of you and you can't stop.
Yeah, and well, Mrs. Lovett looks in the chest and she's really scared, and then Todd says, "Oh, he tried to blackmail me, half my earnings," and then she immediately calms down and goes, "Well, that's a different matter then."
Yeah. Well, they're both sociopathical in their own ways, aren't they?
Well, that's the world they live in. Like, Mrs. Lovett needs money, times are hard, and if she has to turn people into pies to get it, so be it.
Well, yeah, but I think there was a degree of wanting to turn people into pies. I mean, let's face it, you could probably get some livestock up in there, couldn't you, if you really wanted to? You're a pie shop, so you're going to know who to go to.
Especially after she's been doing it for a while and she's got money coming in regular. Like, she could afford to buy meat at that point.
Although, it's no wonder she was doing badly, because when he comes into the shop, the first thing she does is sing about how bad her pies are.
Look at her at a sales pitch.
Yeah, imagine that. It's like, I don't know, going to a bookshop. Oh, this book's terrible. They're all terrible. If I were you, I wouldn't buy any of them. Even though that's basically just the premise of black books. This was just a joy. Well, I say a joy. It was bleak at times, but it was a joy. And it did exceed my expectations, because I thought I wouldn't be that enamoured by it. But I like the songs a lot more than Nightmare for Christmas, by the way. I just think that they're more fitting to the plot of this. I like the characters.
In your head, don't they?
It's entertaining. It's a bit of an earworm. It's visually interesting as well, considering how grim, dark and Victorian it is. Those things don't usually appeal to me, but it somehow works for this.
And, well, again, I say it's the perfect thing for Tim Burton to adapt.
Yeah, because I don't think it would have been anywhere near as charming or entertaining if anyone else did it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Every so often, the gods of cinema conspire to give us a perfect adaptation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, work your magic on some anime for once, but that's another matter. Is there any element, Ollie, in this film that particularly appeals to you?
Well, I like musicals. This is a good one of those.
Yeah.
I liked Johnny Depp at the time that this film came out. Like, well, I've already mentioned...
It was before overexposure, wasn't it?
I've already mentioned my unfortunate history with Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland that made me pretty much permanently sick of Johnny Depp, and...
In my book, that's easily his weakest role, to be honest with you.
Yes, this is also true.
Yeah, they just told him to be Johnny Depp, and you need some meaning and some charismaticness behind it. Like, I think he actually worked as Willy Wonka, to be honest with you.
Quite removed from Johnny Depp, that Alice in Wonderland was also quite a bad film.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, they made Matt Lucas nightmare fuel in that.
Yeah, at the time that Sweeney Todd came out, I didn't see it until I saw it on TV. So I didn't go to see it at the cinema.
I'm not sure I would have, you know.
I had heard good things about it from multiple people.
Yeah.
So I was curious. And yeah, it was my jam. It was a pretty good musical. And that was enough for me at the time.
Yeah.
But it's also really thematically strong, as I hope I've helped illustrate today.
Oh yeah, and I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nothing particularly appeals to me, but it all comes together well. So what it is holistically appeals to me, I suppose, whereas no individual themes from it particularly do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just good on its own as its own force of nature in film, really.
There's also parts of this film that just stay with you. Like, I didn't get over the "Don't I Know You" bit at the end for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I freaked out when I first watched that, didn't I? Because you were with me, and I was like, whoa, that's so good!
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not been much longer than a decade, but how does this film hold up today, do you think?
I'm gonna give my usual stock answer. I think it holds up today as well as it did then.
Yeah, I mean, it's not some...
It being a period piece, like, there's... the anachronisms are deliberate, and it's probably not going to age out. And also, there's little to no CGI in it.
It's just not needed in this, is it?
No.
It stands on its own, doesn't it?
Yeah. Again, there's not really anything that would particularly age out in this film, and I say that a lot on this channel. I'm conscious of that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put this question in for, like, those 90s skateboard dudes movies, not thinking of, well, timeless classics that we'd end up watching.
Yeah, which was always far more likely for us to choose to watch, to be honest.
Yeah. Here's a shocker for you. We don't always think things through on this channel.
And also, we like good movies, and would rather talk about movies we like.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about some real stinkers at some point, but primarily we enjoy talking about the movies that we like watching, so we'd rather give you that than talking about some crap that we're indifferent to.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're going to be more passionate about the things we like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, with all of this in mind, do you think that the film was received appropriately at the time?
I don't actually know how the film was received at the time.
It financially tripled its money, because it cost $50 million to make, which, as you say, is unsurprising, because it's not a huge CGI swashbuckler, as it were.
Yeah.
But it did make $153.4 million back, which ain't bad doing.
Yeah. That was the power of Johnny Depp at the time and Tim Burton.
Yeah, and this was 2007, so it was like at the beginning of a recession as well, so it did well to do that well at the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got an all-star cast.
And how did it do critically?
Good question, let me have a look. Sweeney Todd. The Sweeney... Yeah, okay, well, this is interesting, actually. 81% audience score and 86% critic score.
Yeah, that seems fair. What's the critics' consensus?
Full of piff and grand guignol grossness, this macabre musical is perfectly helmed and highly entertaining, yes. Tim Burton masterfully stages the musical in a way that will make you think he has done this many times before, and yeah, I agree.
I really like what he did with the Epiphany song, where, like, in the stage show, he's threatening the audience with razors. But in this, he's walking around a fantasy version of London threatening people.
That wasn't in the script, by the way. He just hadn't been taking his medication.
Oh, no. George Hearn was just having a bad day at the time.
What are you looking at, you fucking twats? I'll slice you up, I will.
But the director liked it so much, they thought, yeah, we'll do that from now on.
Yeah, it works. It works for this.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was a really clever way of achieving the same effect while not actually being on stage.
I didn't expect it to be quite so acclaimed by audiences, to be honest with you, and part of that was I thought it might be a bit alienating for some, but I suppose you're not going to see a movie called The Demon Barber of Fleet Street unless that's what you're in it to see.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, if you don't want to see a barber, like, cutting up people and turning them into meat, you're not going to see a movie like this, are you? So, yeah, this makes sense with that knowledge.
Yeah.
I think it was received quite appropriately at the time then, in that case. So,
yeah.
In summary, Ollie.
Yeah, I really like this film.
Oh, I can tell.
Gushed about it for an hour.
Well, it's something when you talk more than I do about something, so I know you like it.
I'm conscious of the fact that I've probably regurgitated a few points from other things I've seen. I honestly don't know how much of what I said was that.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, but if I repeated something, it's because I agree with it.
Generally speaking, yes, that's how that works.
Yeah, it's a really good film. I would encourage you to watch the stage version in some capacity at least once.
Don't mind if I do.
Yeah, because it's better.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as much as I do love this as an adaptation, the stage version is better. it's also longer and has more songs in it.
Well, knowing the story and having liked the movie, that makes me much more likely to watch the stage version, so I think I will at some point.
I treat the stage version as like an extended version, but also more lo-fi, technically.
As it was originally meant to be seen, so that's quite a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my feelings on the matter, I've only seen it twice. I liked it both times. It was really good the first time. Got me in all the right places. Entertained me in all the right places. I found good humour in the Alan Rickman scenes, whether intended or not. So I got a lot out of this, and I'm not sad I saw this. I'm quite glad I did, and it's one of those I'm probably going to watch every few months now.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks for the recommendation, by the way, Ollie, because it was you who said we should watch this a few months ago, just before we started Film de Siècle.
Yeah.
Alright, we will see you next week, where I believe we'll be watching Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes.
So, yeah. Let's get serious.
Well, we'll see if
Next
Harry
week.
Potter... Yeah. We normally put like a subtle-ish hint at the film we're doing here, but we're just going to tell you. You know what it is.
Screw the pretense. It's the end of the month. You all know what's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Attend the tale of Sweeney Todd. He served a dark and avengeful god. To seek revenge may lead to hell, but everyone does it if seldom as well as Sweeney Todd. The demon barber of Fleet Street.